Hello everyone, Kristina Werner here. Welcome to another walkthrough video for my entire May 2026 release. I'm really excited about this month's kind of themes for the release. And like months previous, I'm going to be walking you through each item in the release, and then we'll go through some card examples that were made using those products. So let's get into it. The Splash Stencil Pack consists of 5 stencils, and these stencils are really large. They are my 6x9 size, so you actually can get a lot of real estate out of these stencils. So the idea behind these stencils is I wanted to be able to create kind of overlapping ink blending sections that almost resemble watercolor or alcohol inks. So that's where all of these kind of organic shapes came from. Just lots of little squiggles. In some cases, they kind of look like little ink blots. Just really organic shapes with lots of little speckles and dots coming off the side. So it's really almost impossible to recreate a card exactly with these stencils because you can move everything around. You can rotate, you can flip the stencil, you can really do a lot of fun creative things with it. Like I mentioned, there are 5 stencils, so there's a lot you can do with these stencils. So let's look at some cards made using the Splash Stencil Pack. Up first, I have a couple of cards that I actually made when they were 1 sheet of cardstock. To see how the pattern kind of continues, I cut them apart and created 2 A2 cards from the 1 panel. The other thing that's really fun about this one is I did take a little bit of gold watercolor and I just painted that on the edge of some of these designs. I also splattered some of that gold and splattered some of the inks that I used for the blending. So as far as the colors I used, the pink is dragon fruit, the yellow is buttercup, and this kind of tealish blue, that is oceanside. And when these colors overlap, they make the most beautiful colors. When you have the dragon fruit and buttercup overlap, you get an orange. You get this really pretty purple shade when you overlap the dragon fruit and oceanside. And then you also get a really nice kind of pop of green when you overlap the buttercup and the oceanside. So these colors are a prime example of what I wanted to do when I created the stencil set. So there's that one right there. This next one has a bunch of different overlapping colors. I've actually got some capri right here and it blends into midnight. It doesn't look like midnight though because it's overlapping another shape that is in Surfside. We've got some eggplant and also some wildberry. And then over here, you can't see much of it because it got cut off when I used my A7 oval frames to cut this card. But up here was a little bit of plumberry going down into wildberry. So you can get some really organic looking shapes when you do all the overlapping like this. And my third example is all monochromatic. All I used was black ink. And just depending on how much ink was on my blending brush determined the saturation of color on the actual cardstock itself. So for this one, I did just an A2 card front. And it was a lot of fun to try to get like really, really light gray areas. It was so fun. So this is the Splash Stencil Pack. I think there's a lot of things you can do with these stencils. It's completely endless. I didn't even try any of my other ideas, which included bringing in additional stencils and layering them over top to get like patterns and things like that. I think that could be really, really cool. And another way you can really stretch the stencil pack. The small script greetings dies has 3 greetings and 6 dies. So you've got the shadow layer on the outside and then the individual words. This one right here that says healing hugs and also best wishes, the words are combined. But on miss you, you actually have the words are separate. So here's what I mean by that. The healing hugs is kind of hooked over here and right here, and best wishes is just over the H and the T. But the miss you, you have individual words. So if you wanted to use them separately or apart, you can. And I do have an example of that. So let's look at that example right here. I've got these two cards. This one kept them together and used the shadow layer. And then over here, I separated the words and I actually cut off a little, I cut off the little scoop here at the beginning of the word you. I cut that off and then I just had it hook on to the tail end on the miss. And it makes it look like it's one complete greeting. You can kind of see there that it definitely is separate. So this is really kind of fun, a great way you can kind of stretch the use of that greeting. Here we have Healing Hugs. I've stacked up a bunch of wildberry die cuts on top of that white shadow layer. And then on this one, we have the Best Wishes in gold, just one layer, and it's on top of the black shadow layer. So once again, this is the small script greetings dies. There are 6 dies in total and 3 greetings. The circle sayings dies is exactly what it sounds like. It is sayings inside circles. Each of the sayings is all combined letters, so it all cuts out in one die. And then you have that outer frame in the circle. And then you also have the solid circle underneath, or behind, I should say. So you can stack that greeting on top or use it separately, either one. So let's look at a few cards I made using this die set. First up is this card with a really pretty blend on the background. Here's the big hugs, and then that circle is cut out of vellum. So you can see a little bit of that color and design coming in from the back. This card has the Much Love in gold, and I pulled out that gold with my gift bow die as well coming across. And this third example has the Hey There. You can see how it's a really good size on an A2 card, but then also it's still substantial enough to hold its own on a 5x7 card. I really love these 3 greetings. So this is the Circle Sayings dies. Once again, you get the 3 greetings plus their shadows that cut out the circles behind them. This is the Easy Repeat Colette tile background stamp. Like the title suggests, this is an easy repeat stamp, meaning that you can repeat it going horizontally. So just stamp it once and then stamp it again. And you can also repeat it vertically. So if you want to continue this pattern onto a larger card, or you just need it to cover up a bit more space, you definitely can. So I've got 3 cards using this particular background. Here's one where I just use Pebble ink on top of Pebble cardstock and a nice tone-on-tone effect. I would love tiles like this in my bathroom. Wouldn't that be pretty? I love it so much. This one also has just the background on its own, except this time it's gold heat embossed over a very colorful background. This background was made using Berry Kiss ink, Aster ink, Harbor down in this corner, and then we've got Midnight coming in on the side, and then Eggplant up in this top corner. I think that blend is so pretty. I love all those colors together. And then this card, I took the background itself and I rotated it so that it was a square straight on, and then cut out each one of these squares so that it's just about the right size. Now these squares are exactly 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. So if you have a punch or a square die that will cut out that size or something similar, you could get a cut that's just like that as well. And just by putting them side by side, it almost creates a whole different pattern. I think it looks really kind of cool. So this is the Easy Repeat Colette tile background stamp. I think this is going to be a staple in my crafting stash just because it is one of those more quiet patterns, but also it can really stand on its own, especially when you have some really colorful inks with it. The next 6 products in this month's collection is a little bit of a departure. Over the last, I would say about 8 to 9 months, I have become obsessed with the game of American Mahjong. Now, I learned American Mahjong first. I later learned Chinese or Hong Kong style Mahjong. I love it all. And I wanted to create some crafting products that you could use to send Mahjong-themed cards to fellow game players or friends, or even if you wanted to just share a thank you to a person who's hosting you when you play Mahjong. So here we go. Let's jump into those 6 products right now. So all 6 products are available in one big bundle. I think they're calling it the Everything Mahjong bundle. So if you want to pick up all 6 together, you can, or you can like pick and choose what you'd like. There's also some other bundles where it's like the stamp and the dies, or the stamp and the stencil, some different arrangements. So let's go through all 6 of those products and I'll show you cards where they are used. The Easy Repeat Tiles background stamp is one of the first items in all of the Mahjong-themed items in this month's release that I designed. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to take on the challenge of creating my own simplified Mahjong tiles, and what would I do if I designed them. So these are my very simplified tiles. I think they're absolutely beautiful. There's a lot of you know, if you've been playing Mahjong for any bit of time, you probably recognize all of these tiles, like the 8 bam right here, or the 1 dot, or one circle, or 8 sticks, things like that. I think they're just so fun, and they're simplified enough that they don't like overwhelm your cards when you use them. So here's the stamp. It is an easy repeat stamp. You'll notice that these little circles right here are only on this one side. It's not over here. That's so that you can take this stamp and repeat it on the other side if you want to extend the pattern. The same thing happens for these lines and circles down here. They're only on the bottom. They're not on the top. That's so that you can stamp the full design and then repeat it up above. Makes it really easy to continue that design. So along with the background stamp, we have a stencil pack, and this has 4 stencils in the pack. You can kind of see some examples of how you can layer things all together. And they're really fun to use. You've got the tiles and the dots on 2 separate stencils. There's also the bottom layer on the 1 dot tiles. And then you have all the intricate little elements that color in all of the other tiles. So let's take a look at some cards where I use this background stamp and the stencil, or just the background stamp. Here's a card where I used the background stamp and then also the stencils. And you'll notice that the background stamp, or the stamp here, is too short. And this is an example of doing that repeat, going, you know, putting up above so that it would extend the full size of a 5x7 card. And then I used some different colors of ink to do the blending on the stencil. So the blended stencil was in Pebble, Avocado, Lilac, and Fig. So the pebble here almost starts to look a little bit pale greenish when it's paired with that avocado. Thought that was kind of a fun little combination of colors. This circle card is 5x5. And on this one, the background stamp was stamped in cranberry ink. Actually, I think it's poppy ink on watermelon cardstock. And then this green layer in the background is pistachio with avocado. And this was achieved by stamping the whole background on both sheets of cardstock and then doing the circle cut through one separate area so that they can line up when it comes to all of the stamping. This last card using the background stamp is one of my favorites, actually. I'll put another picture on screen here in a minute because I recreated this card twice. There was this one you're seeing here, and then I gave one to a friend, a new Mahjong friend that I met in Cincinnati when I was visiting my friend Jennifer a few weeks ago. I made a card just exactly like this one while I was at Jennifer's home, and then I took the card to Mahjong that night at my new friend's house, and then I gave it to her. But this is a really good example of how you can use the stamp and just have it hang off the edge of a card. You don't have to have it go all the way to the edge. Just gives it a little bit of a different look. And then having it in gold heat embossing gives it a different look, especially on top of an ink blended background. Now, all of the colors on this background, I'm going to tell you what they are. We've got, let's see, Berry Kiss, Poppy, and then this is Sorbet, and then Actually, I think this is all Berry Kiss down this one side. Then we've got Sorbet and Poppy right here. There's a little bit of purple with the plum berry right here. And then we've got Pops of Gold as well. So this is the Easy Repeat Tiles bundle. There's the stamp and also the stencil pack. This is the So Mahj Dies, and this is all about the puns. We've got Thank You So Mahj and Love You So Mahj. And the thing that's fun about these dies is that the shadow layer has some scoring lines for the letters, and this can serve a couple of purposes. First, it tells you exactly where to adhere the individual letters that you can cut out of the words. And the other thing you can do is if you wanted to cut out just the shadow layer out of like a metallic cardstock or something like that, you absolutely could, because those score lines will be very visible on a metallic cardstock. It's really kind of fun. So let's look at 3 cards made using this die set. This first one is this right here. We've got the white shadow layer, and then we've got, I think, 2 layers of white on the letters, and then the top layer is in gold. And the same treatment was used for this card as well. I love these greetings because they're nice and big and substantial and take up a good amount of space on the card. And then for this last one, here's the Thank You So Mahj. Love that. I think it's so great. All right, so this is the So Mahj die set. I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 dies. I had to count real fast. There's 5 dies, but 2 phrases. And that's because you have the You So Mahj. That's the portion of the phrase that they both share. And then we have the individual love and the individual thank. And then you've got the shadow layers for each greeting. So this is the So Mahj dies. The Mahjong tiles dies allows you to build your own Mahjong tiles. So we've got a base layer. So that's the color or the cardstock you'd put down for the bottom layer. And then you have 3 tiles. You have a 1 dot, a flower, and a soap. So you can cut those out of different colors and then assemble them for your cards. There's also a good luck down here. So here are some examples of what you can do with those little dies, and similar colors were used on the card example. So over here on this card, we've got some dies that were created using some different colors. We've got sorbet, nectar, avocado, fig, lilac, and then the card base is out of pebble. I just thought that was so fun. And it was so, I just love seeing these tiles all adhere together because they're almost the exact size of an actual tile, which I think is so fun. So this is the Mahjong tiles dies. I think it would be adorable to create a bunch of these tiles and cover your whole card with them. I think that would look amazing. This is the You Make Me tile bundle. It consists of a 6x6 stamp set and also a die set with all that cuts out all the coordinating greetings and also the images. But this was so fun to create. I happened to be away on a crafting weekend when I was coming up with this stamp set. And during that weekend, me and a couple of my friends who already knew how to play Mahjong, we ended up teaching the rest of the group how to play Mahjong as well. So we had a lot of fun coming up with all of these phrases and just lots of really fun puns. So just a few I wanted to point out to you that I really, really love. You're the type of friend I discard a tile for. Miss you so much. You make me tile. You rack me up. May the tiles continue to bring us together. Thanks for lifting me up when I'm dragging. We've got thanks so much for playing. And then thanks so much for hosting. Happy new card. If you've been playing for any amount of time, you know that when a new card comes out, it's almost like a happy new year. It's when the new card comes out. I love it. Here's to losing every game. That's me. When I first learned how to play Mahjong, I played 17 games over the course of one weekend, and I didn't win a single game until games 15 and 16. So that's my, like, hang in there. You're here. You're going to lose every game. It's okay. Then we've got wishing you all the luck, tile we meet again, and then heart you so much. You've also got some of those images from the background stamp from the Easy Repeat Tiles background. These are the same size, and there is a die over here that will cut them out. So if you wanted to cut out some of the other tile designs, on the background stamp, you could use this die to do that. Or if you wanted to stamp some of these and then pop them up off the background, you could do that as well. We've got this flower here that is reminiscent of the dots on some classic tiles. And then we have a flower up here that kind of looks like that very simplified flower as well. You can see it over here also. So let's look at some cards made using this bundle. First up is one of my favorite cards from this entire release, just because I love that greeting. Here's to losing every single game. So the colors used for the tiles are honeycomb, avocado, sorbet, and honeysuckle. The greeting was stamped in cobblestone, and then there's a little bit of powder ink kind of blending up from the bottom. This card is all about the purples. I really love this one. So we've got eggplant stamped right here. We've got fig, as well as fig on these stripes that I use my diagonal stripe background stamp for. We've got some aster, and then on lilac cardstock. And I love this one because thanks so much for playing. If you're hosting at your house, you could give everyone a little card like this as they go home. And then I've got a bunch of cards that just use the greetings from the stamp set. So we've got You Make Me Tile on this card. We've also got You're the Type of Friend I Discard a Tile For. And then we've got this one that says Wishing You All the Luck. So this is the You Make Me Tile 6x6 stamp set and the coordinating dies. So this is the Kristina Werner with Concord 9th May 2026 release. I hope you guys enjoy all of the fun that's in this release, especially for all of those Mahjong players out there. I hope you embrace all of these products and make some fun Mahjong cards for your friends. Thanks so much for joining me. I will be using this entire release throughout the month of May on my YouTube channel. So please stop by on Mondays at 6 p.m. to tune in live, or just throughout the month, I'll have a few edited videos to share with you using this month's release. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.